Stay with us. I want to add to our conversation Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. She is one of the lawmakers who co-sponsored this resolution, which has just passed the House of Representatives, a bipartisan resolution to censure Paul Gosar. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, we had to do it. It really is not a happy day that we had to do this. Leader McCarthy wouldn't do it, so Democrats had to. First of all, let me just say, we know that hate speech leads to hate crimes. We know that death threats lead to death. And look at what's taking place throughout the country in terms of women and people of color and the threats that we're receiving each and every day. And I, for one, have had decades of death threats. I know what this is about. And so we had to do something. Enough is enough. This hatred, this trying to mischaracterize what Mr. Gosar has said and did, it's no laughing matter. This was a direct threat to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and to our president, and it cannot be tolerated. In the broader community throughout the country, this could have been an act that would warrant some criminal charges. So come on, the minimum we could do is what we did today in terms of censure and take him off of his committees. Enough is enough.
Congresswoman, his brother believes that criminal investigation and prosecution is warranted. Do you see that in the cards?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, the authorities have to address that in terms of the criminal justice system. But I am telling you, perpetrating hate really leads to violence. Perpetrating death threats, and again, so many of us for decades have experienced this, and we know what they lead to. They lead to death. They lead to violence. And what's taking place in our country cannot be tolerated. We need to at least be the model of civility in the Congress so that we can demonstrate that we know how to have our differences without threatening to kill someone and without putting forth these hate messages. And so we don't know where this takes in terms of the broader criminal justice system, but I do know that we had to act, and we had to act today because the Republicans would not. Leader McCarthy would not. They made a joke out of it, and that was that.
I want to show you something that your colleague, Congresswoman Jackie Speier, said earlier today. I'll read it for you. We're having a hard time finding that. She said, "I'm a victim of violence. I know what it's like. I also was in the gallery clamoring for life when the shots rang out in the speaker's lobby. Congresswoman AOC has become the go-to subject of the radical right to stir up their base, as is often the case for women of color. It is disgusting and profoundly unacceptable." Do you feel safe? And do you think Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is safe?
Listen, we have threats each and every day. We face this all of the time. And what's important is that we understand that we are not going to tolerate this. It's shameful what happened on January 6th. This was an attempted coup in terms of trying to dismantle our democracy and prevent the peaceful transfer of power. I was on the floor and in the speaker's lobby and had to evacuate. And it was a terror attack. It was domestic violence. It was domestic terrorism. And so the country has to come to grips with the fact that there are those out there who are perpetrating and promoting violence, and we all have to be vigilant. We have to understand what's out there, but we're not going to let this keep us from doing our job. We're going to speak out for justice. We're going to speak out for our people. We're going to do the job that people sent us here to do. It's a shame and disgrace that we have to do it in this kind of an environment of hate and of potential violence. And so we're not going to let that deter us, but believe you me, we understand what the risks are, and hopefully Republicans understand that too. And the January 6th committee, which Chairman Thompson is chairing, will get to the bottom of this. And so then we will know who's responsible for perpetuating all of this, and we need to stop it. And we need to send a signal to our young people that violence is no option, is not an option at all.
Congresswoman, I used to be a Republican. I know some of these Republicans in the House and the Senate. And when the terrorism, you described this as terrorism, when the terrorism was of the foreign variety, Al-Qaeda or ISIS, there was quite literally nothing that Republicans wouldn't do, from the surveillance state to war to I mean, we still take our shoes off at airports because of all the things that we did after 9/11 to make sure that never happened again. Can you protect against terrorism as just one party and two members of the other?
This should be bipartisan. It should be nonpartisan. And our national security agencies have designated domestic terrorism as the top national security threat. Terrorists don't determine who they're going to attack based on their party. Domestic terrorism is real, and Republicans need to understand that and need to work with Democrats to try to make sure that we stamp this out. This is a democracy. This is not an authoritarian dictatorship. Donald Trump, unfortunately, pumped this up in terms of the vile rhetoric, which he used throughout his presidency and before. And so he has developed now a following that really believes that they have the right to engage in violent acts. And so Republicans need to condemn this and work with us to stop it, just as Democrats are.
And as of today, only 2 Republicans